We're lucky to be joined today by Luc Planty, who is the director of the Chateau. So, Luc, I think we can get started. If you just want to say quickly, introduce yourself, a few words about yourself, and quickly introduce Château Guiraud, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, I can try. So, I'm Luc Planty, so general manager of Château Guiraud since 2019. And Château Guiraud, it's a Sauternes. It's in the town of Sauternes, in Sauternes appellation. It's 40 kilometers in south of Bordeaux. Oh yeah, you have a map. It's perfect.
Yeah. So hold on, before you continue, just to get everyone situated, this is the overall map of Bordeaux. You can see, yeah, you can see where it says Bordeaux. That's the actual city of Bordeaux. To the south, we have the Grave region, and then in the southern part of the Grave, you have Sauternes. So this is the zoomed in picture of Sauternes.
The sweet appellation, because you can see Sauvignon, Loupiac, Sainte-Croix-du-Mont, and Sauternes and Barsac. So Château Guiraud, it's on the area of Sauternes, the town of Sauternes. It became the only first grow to be in Sauternes city. It's a very small town. It's only 600 people.
Okay.
So it's a first grade grow classified in 1855. And we have one particularity. We was the only one to be certified in organic farming since 2011.
Okay.
So we conception it's to have a natural approach of the excellence. It's to explain the terroir of the chateau, to explain the botrytis in the best way we can.
Okay, so before we get into what makes Guiraud unique and the different practices you're applying at the property, can you just back up, because this is actually our first interview with a Sauternes producer. So can you just back up and tell us a little bit about how Sauternes is made, because it's very different from the way the rest of Bordeaux wines are made, and what makes it unique in Sauternes in this specific appellation?
So, you know, in Sauternes we are a little bit crazy because it's too easy to make dry white. So we decide to make some wine with a noble rot, with a fungus called botrytis cinerea. Oh, you have everything.
Yeah, we're ready.
So the botrytis, it's a little fungus, and it's come in Sauternes because we have a microclimate. So during the morning, we have a big mist cover all the area, bring some humidity. So you know, all the fungus like humidity, and during this mist, the fungus grow very quick. Around 11 o'clock in the morning, the sun rises and the mist disappear. So now the botrytis don't grow and start to concentrate. Because you know, when the botrytis eat the skin of the berries, so the berries start to be porous.
Porous?
Yeah, porous, this is the word.
Yeah,
so,
they shrivel.
Yeah, they shrivel. So the berries start to concentrate, to lost water, and to concentrate all the aroma in the berries. It's important to know the botrytis bring new aroma, because when he hits the skin, he develops new aroma precursor in the berries. So when you taste botrytis wine, last harvest or ice wine, you can make the difference between botrytis wine or the other. Because the botrytis bring aroma from like black tea, pepper, peppermint, something like that.
Okay.
So during the afternoon, you have the sun, you have the wind, so the berries concentrate. And during the picking, we only pick berries with the mushroom, with the fungus, at the good concentration. So if you go to the two pictures before, you can see where we have the scroll of the botrytis.
This?
Yeah. So at the left, you have the classic berries for the dry white. And if you go right, you have a very concentrated berries So we pick just before, the two before the last one, we pick at this stage. So we have
Okay.
the good concentration between sugar, acidity, and aroma.
Okay.
And we only pick berries by berries, one by one, and we have to pass in the wine several times.
So I think that's very important. And one of the things that first surprised me when I was learning about Sauternes wines was how labor intensive it is. I mean, you know, I've done harvest in Bordeaux, but you know, you can pick the cluster and you
Yeah.
move on. It was for reds. Whereas in Sauternes, you really have to take the whole cluster and know the pickers have to be trained to know what they're picking that day and what they're going to have to leave on there to pick,
For the next day.
you know, the next day
or the
or
next week.
a few days later. Yeah.
So it's a big gamble, Sauternes, because when you let some berries on the cluster, if you have some rain, if it's the weather go rainy, you lost all the concentration. So you have to start over and over to concentrate the berries to pick again. You understand what I mean?
Yep. No, it's like you said, it's definitely a gamble. It's a much more risky wine to produce,
Exactly.
given all the factors that go into it and how long the harvest lasts.
It's gonna take a long time. It's for example, in 2020, we start around the 19th of September, and we finish the 24th of October.
Yeah, that's insanely long, and there's so much that can happen in that time frame with the weather
Yeah,
and
and during this time, we only pick during 12 days. So we have
okay.
lots of break between these
Right.
2 days.
And so it's very unique. This botrytis is very unique to this specific area, the specific microclimate in Sauternes, right? It can't really happen just anywhere.
No, you can have botrytis everywhere, but for example, for the red wine, it's they call it gray rots, pourriture grise.
Right.
But
Right. Not something we want in reds.
not it's not something you want in red wine. But in Sauternes, because you have the alternance between mist and sun, these rots become noble. Because
Right.
you have
And that's
the
specific to
develop,
Sauternes.
it's specific in Sauternes, it's specific, you have it in Serron sometimes, you have it in Loupiac. Tokai, it's a botrytis wine.
Right.
But you don't have a lot of place in the world where you can find, where you can produce this type of wine.
Correct. So it's definitely a very unique and special place in Bordeaux. If
Yeah.
anyone gets a chance to go to Bordeaux once we can travel again, you definitely have to take a trip down to Sauternes. And then briefly, the history behind how Sauternes was first created. What's the story behind that?
Oof, it's a big legend. Some people say
it's a big legend, yes.
Some people said it's because one of the owner of Château Yquem, long time ago, have to go to Paris for a meeting. And she said to all the staff in the chateau, you can't start the harvest without me. So you have to wait. So when she come back 10 days later, all the vineyard was attacked by the botrytis. So they pick it, and they discover the Sauternes of today. It's
nice.
a legend. I don't know
it was a happy
true or
accident.
not, but it's a good story.
It is a good story. That's what we love. Okay, so now let's focus in a little bit more on Château Guiraud, starting with the unique partnership that makes up the ownership of Château Guiraud. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Château Guiraud, it's a very particular chateau because it's never hérité. I don't know how you say it in English. It's always sold to another family, and it's not kept in the same family for
right.
generation.
It's not passed down from generation to
exactly.
generation.
So in 2006, 4 new owners buy the chateau. So you have Robert Peugeot, who represents FFP. It's the family, the holding family of Peugeot. It's a financial man, very clever. And we have 3 other people, 3 winemakers. You have Olivier Bernard from Domaine de Chevalier, Pessac-Léognan. You have Stéphane van Nijperk from Saint-Émilion, red wine also. And Xavier Planty from Château Guiraud and Château du Carpia. He was the winemaker and the manager of the chateau since 82.
Okay.
Ooh, long time. So it's these 4 personalities they find each other, and they have the same passion for the wine. They have the same passion for the good living, for the food, for the it's bon vivant. I don't know if you say that.
I don't think, I'm not sure there's a direct translation for that in English.
So it's 4 bon vivants, and they decide to go in this new adventure to develop Château Guiraud and to bring Château Guiraud to the top.
And you said since 2006?
Yeah, it's by in 2006.
Okay. And since this new ownership, what are some of the major changes that they've made, and kind of leading into that, what sets Château Guiraud apart from, your neighbors in Sauternes?
You just sorry, you can repeat.
Yeah, no problem. Just what sets Château Guiraud apart from what are you doing differently at the property? I know biodynamics is and organic farming is a big thing. I know it's probably a lot, but just in summary, what makes Château Guiraud special, and also
everything.
You can speak about the style. I know.
Everything. It's put Château Guiraud special about.
Well, we want to know.
The first thing the easy thing, the first thing, it's the blend.
Yeah.
In Château Guiraud, it's 65% of Sauvignon Blanc and 35% Sauvignon.
Okay.
It's the height rate of Sauvignon Blanc in the appellation.
Okay.
No, normally classic in Sauternes, it's 20% of Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
No. This is because we like Sauvignon, and we think it's very hard to make a good Sauvignon Blanc in botrytis way, but we think it's the best expression of the botrytis go on Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, and what does the Sauvignon Blanc bring to the final blend of a Sauternes that's different from the Semillon?
The Sauvignon Blanc
loaded question as well.
It's very difficult. It's the palette of aroma of Sauvignon Blanc are more on the aroma things, or acid aroma, like agrumes, lemon. So citrus, when you taste, citrus, exactly. So when you taste it, the wine seems more acid, but in fact no. It's just because you have more aroma from the acid flavor.
Maybe a little freshness too.
Yes, freshness, exactly. So we try to have something, a Sauternes more like with a better drinkability, because to make a good Sauternes, you have to you need to have the best balance between acidity, sugar, and alcohol. And more acidity you have, less you feel the sugar less. You less feel sugar.
Right.
You say.
No, that makes sense.
Okay, so that's why we like the Sauvignon Blanc. We don't work with muscadel, but some people have some muscadel in the blend, but we don't like the taste. It's not our spirit for the wine. The other thing, it's the vineyard. We manage the vineyard in the organic way, in a biodynamic way, and at this time, but now we have some neighbors are biodynamic now, but before we was the only one.
Okay.
And it's all the spirit about permaculture, biodynamic, about agroforestry. This is the difference of Guiraud with the other.
And so you said that the planting at the estate is quite high in Sauvignon Blanc. Now, do you vary the blend from vintage to vintage, or is it usually pretty set for the Grand
It's,
Vin at least?
for the Grand Vin, it's pretty set, around 65 to 35. But
Okay.
sometimes you can have 60-40 or 70-30. But it's
Okay.
always around this percentage.
So really, every time that we're tasting a different vintage of Guiraud, we're really getting the expression of that vintage because the
Yes,
blend doesn't change a ton.
not a lot. Yeah, it's because we always have this part of Sauvignon in the vineyard.
Okay. And can you speak about the label of Château Guiraud? So
You have all the more difficult question you can have.
I'm really testing you here.
So the label,
So
the black label.
yes, it's quite common in Sauternes to have a white label,
Yeah,
pretty
with some
standard white
lyric.
label, but you have black. So
Yeah,
what's the story with
it's
that?
so you have to go back very far. So in 1766, Pierre Guiraud gets the chateau for his wedding, and he gives his name to the chateau.
Okay.
You need to know the Guiraud family was Protestant, negociant, and Republican. And you need to know all the chateau around was Catholic, aristocratic, and royalist. So it was like the black sheep in the middle of the troupeau. So in France, when the king died, you have to bring a little scarf, black scarf on your chest. And so the Guiraud family, to make fun about that, decided to put a black label on the bottle when Napoleon first died.
Okay.
So since this time, we keep the black label, and we keep everything from this time, like the writing. This writing
Okay.
is like it's very straight. It's like in stick.
Yep.
And this is the Helvetica topography. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking back at this picture shows some older vintages.
Yeah.
They're all very, like you said, the font
Well,
is
so you
all
can
quite
see the
similar.
scribe of the writing of Château Guiraud. It's very straight, like very Protestant. So we keep this writing since 1766. But you need to know this writing is come from Protestants. The Protestants created in Switzerland, and it's Napoleon I who bringing in France to write the Code Civil.
Okay.
So it's a very a good honor.
Hommage.
Hommage. Voilà, it's a big homage to Napoleon on the label.
Okay.
But all the chateau in Sauternes was souvent,
Often.
merci, was very often white with very italic
Cursive or yeah.
calligraphy, exactly.
Okay.
So this is the difference of Guiraud.
Well, that's certainly something I didn't know. So you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
In terms of the style of Château Guiraud versus, so these are the three wines
Yes, we
that
produce
you
on
make at the
the
property and that we carry here at Monsieur Touton. We have several vintages of Château Guiraud actually going back to 1996. We have some 96, some 98 of Château Guiraud. I actually got to taste the 98 recently. It was beautiful. It's just super well balanced. And then Petit Guiraud, which is considered the second wine. So can you tell us, I like to understand each property has a different philosophy with, stylistically what they do to create their Grand Vin, Château Guiraud in this case, and their second wine, Petit Guiraud.
Okay. So the first difference, it's during the picking.
Okay.
When we decide to create Petit Guiraud, It's because we think lots of people need to see a new image of Sauternes, to have something very fresh, very balanced, very easy to drink. So when in 2006 we decided to create Petit Guiraud and to change all the management of the plot who are dedicated to produce Petit Guiraud. So Petit Guiraud is not just a second wine where you put all the bad things of the first grow. It's a wine at its part alone, à part entière.
It's its own wine.
So in Petit Guiraud, 80% of the production come from plots dedicated to this production, and the 20% less come from the first grow.
Okay.
So we decide this this way we decide to do this because we want something very equal every year, at the same level every year, not just something who change with the
vintage. You want something that's consistent.
Exactly. So Petit Guiraud is something very accessible to everyone. It's made for people who want to discover or rediscover Sauternes. It's not very expensive. It's very easy to drink. It's very fresh. You have a very good balance between sugar, acidity, and alcohol. You can open it every day if you want, for appetizer, just to take a drink when you go back at home. It's
versatile.
Yeah. The first grow is something very more complex, with more complexity. So we start with the picking. At the picking, more rigorous. We very search the good botrytis, the fresh botrytis, to have the best expression of the black tea, of the peppermint, of the aroma of the botrytis in the wine. It's fermented for the first grow. It's all fermented in new barrels, 100% of new barrels, and it's 18 months of growing. Petit Guiraud have 50% in barrels and 50% in tank.
Okay.
That's why you have more freshness in the Petit Guiraud.
And do you also do Sauvignon?
Sorry?
Do you also use Sauvignon Blanc in the blend of Petit Guiraud?
Yes, it's pretty much the same blend of the first grow.
Okay. So high percentage of Sauvignon Blanc in both.
Exactly.
Okay. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off if you wanted to elaborate on Château Guiraud.
It's okay, you can go.
So, and then take us now over to the other wine. It's the G de Château Guiraud, which we also carry. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's made? Obviously, those are grapes that are not affected by botrytis, and for those who haven't had a dry white from Sauternes, what that style maybe compares to with other dry whites from Bordeaux, from Pessac-Léognan, for example.
So the G, it's a dry white from Sauternes. So Sauternes, it's a very good terroir for white, dry or sweet. And the G, it's a blend about 50% of Sauvignon Blanc and 50% of Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
So we decided to produce this wine is produced in the property since before 82, but since 10 years we decided to increase the quantity and to talk about it because it's a good product, and like I say, Sauternes is a good place to produce white wine. So it's a 50-50 blend, and it's a wine it's not like a typical Bordeaux Sauvignon Blanc wine. It's more like a Pessac-Léognan wine, white wine. It's a wine for the table. It's a wine for the appetizer, and it's a wine for the table. Not just to say that, but it's a good
Everyday
wine,
wine?
of course. Everyday wine, yeah. It's not expensive, so you can drink it every day if you want.
Yes. I would agree with you in terms of it being everyday versatile. The Semillon brings a little bit more of the roundness
Yeah.
to the wine, but it's not, you know, it's not overly oaked. It's a very easy, approachable Sauvignon
It's
Blanc Semillon.
for the vinification, it's fermented in barrels which come from the first grow.
From
So
Château Guiraud de Sauternes.
from the Château Guiraud Sauternes. So
Okay.
the barrels make one first grow, and after that they make one dry white.
Okay.
So, and the dry white, every year we decide since 2014, we bring a new thing. It's a malolactic fermentation to
Okay.
reduce the acidity, but sometimes it's only 5% and sometimes it's 15 or 20% of malolactic fermentation. So this change for each vintage. It's not very
Okay.
fixed.
Okay.
This is
It depends on the vintage.
to keep the same style of the wine.
Okay. Consistency again. We do have a question. Someone asked if all of the grapes used for Sauternes, of course, are affected by botrytis, or is it a mixture of different levels?
It's it depends of the vintage. For example, in 2020, because we have not very good condition for the harvest, we need to pick only berries with botrytis. Because
Okay.
if not, you never obtain the good concentration.
Okay.
But for example, in 2015, 2016, where there are two very good vintage, it's a mix between 80% of botrytis and 20% of yellow classic berries of wine.
Okay. So definitely varies depending on the vintage.
Yes. In fact,
Okay.
every day we
Thank
make
you.
an échantillon, a sample,
Mm-hmm.
and we can see if we have to take, if we can allow 5% of yellow berries, or just 2%, or 10%, and we give this consigne with we give the speech the consigne, oui, consigne, we give la consigne.
Je sais pas.
We give the order to the picker to have 5% of yellow berries or 10%, and we go in the vineyard.
Okay. Okay, so very much depends on the vintage.
Yeah.
To finish up, because we are running, low on time here, I did want to ask you, so you do have a restaurant
Yes.
at the property, which I've been able to eat at a few times. It's beautiful, especially in the summer when you can eat outside. On that note, can you give us some ideas of alternative pairings for Sauternes? I mean, we talked about Petit Guiraud being very versatile. I personally tend to like Sauternes with more of a savory food. Some people like it with a classic dessert. But what are some different pairings that you suggest for the wine?
So, for me, the best pairing it's with something you like. It's very easy. I can drink Sauternes on everything. But the good pairing is with some seafood, because you have the yod thing, the yod aroma from the seafood with the sugar of the wine is very good. You have spicy food, Asian food, very spicy, very good aroma. I try to avoid Sauternes on the desserts, because it's sugar from the wine and sugar from the dessert. It's sometimes too opulent. Mm-hmm. It's too rich for some people. It's very too rich. Mm-hmm. The best, one of the best pairing is with cheese, with a good cheese. Good cheese, very creamy cheese is very, very good. But come at the restaurant and I can show you a lot of things if you want.
Yes, once we can travel again. I have one last question from someone asking some of the best vintages, I guess, historically of Château Guiraud, or maybe since the four families have been there. What are some of the best vintages that
One of the
you've had
best,
at
it's
Château Guiraud?
in Sauternes, one of the best vintage since 20 years. For example, you have 2001, you have 2005 and 9, very, very rich, very opulent,
Right.
and perfect wine. 2011, it's one of my favorites, but it's not very easy to approach. And a lot of people are not agree with me, but I like a lot 2013 because
Okay.
you have a very good balance with acidity, sugar, and alcohol. It's very perfect.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's important to note in Bordeaux when they speak about great vintages, it's often regarding the red, but we forget that whites and Sauternes,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not the
need
same. When it's
different
called in
growing.
red, it's not very good in Sauternes or white wine,
Right, like you said, you know, 11 or
except
13, which
very
are
good
great
vintage.
vintages.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, I think we should probably wrap up unless there's any other questions, or Luc, if there was anything else you wanted to mention before we say goodbye.
You are welcome to the property when you want. We are open 7 days. We are open every day. So we are very happy to share everything we know in the property if you want to come here.
All right. Well, we look forward to it once we can travel again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us
Thank you to you for the
and
invitation.
give us all the valuable information on Sauternes and on Château Guiraud. And we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, I hope too. Bye-bye.
All right, Luc. Thank you. Au revoir.
Bye.